Welcome to Think Future. My name's Chris Kalaboukis, and once again we're coming at you live from deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, California. We're talking innovation, startups, the future, not necessarily those, and not necessarily in that order. If you're watching on YouTube, smack that subscribe button and hit that bell so you can be notified when a new show comes online. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast service, please subscribe. Please drop a note on Apple Podcasts. I greatly appreciate it. Now, I was mentioning a while back that one of the things you need to do in order to be creative, or at least I need to be creative, I don't know, maybe it works differently for you, is that I have to take in tons of different inputs. So I take inputs in from the internet, I take inputs from books, I take inputs from all these different sources. And I don't usually take the input and immediately do something with it. I don't immediately slot it into something. It just sort of goes into my head and I percolate on it. And I percolate on it and I percolate on it, and then suddenly new things come out. You're probably like that as well. I mean, most people are like that. They can come up with new things, but they need inputs in order to generate outputs. I mean, some things you can generate with no inputs, and others require outputs. So the creativity sometimes comes from the input. And I go to all sorts of different places for inputs, not just to mainstream news sources. I go to all sorts of crazy news sources. And I found some really interesting places out there on the internet where you can just plug stuff in. Now, some of it might be a little sketchy. So like, oh, Chris, what are you doing going to these sites? You shouldn't go there. Like, even though there might be a lot of garbage on these sites, sometimes there's a nugget here and there, a nugget of wisdom, which you can then bring into your conversation and have it help inform where you're going. And you see, I think it comes from the upset stuff I was talking about before. I was saying that a lot of times when we innovate, we come up with things that are unsettling, upsetting. Like that guy who decided to stop showering and he just sprayed himself with antibiotic spray, and it would, or antifungal spray or whatever spray, and it would actually destroy all the bacteria, or all the negative bacteria on his body instead of showering. People thought that was kind of strange. So there's always, usually when you're innovating, when you're coming up with brand new things, super creative, disruptive new things, when you talk about them, sometimes they can feel a little uncomfortable. Sometimes they get close to breaking the law. Sometimes there are no laws in that space. Do you think there were laws on something like Uber when Uber went into that space? It was permissionless innovation. They went and built it and got it out there, and then afterwards asked for permission to do it. So a lot of innovation comes from taking these really edgy cases and then applying them to new things. So I came across this quote on one of these sites, and I thought to myself, wow, I never thought of it that way, because we are in such a goal-oriented culture. All we seem to care about now is the goal, the end, the thing we want at the end, the solution. We want to be rich, but we're not interested in getting too rich. We want to be something, we want to do something, we want to conquer that dungeon or beat that enemy, but we don't want to enjoy the journey to doing that. I think that's one of the things that we may have lost. We may have lost the journey part of life. We're all so interested in the goal, what we're trying to get to, that we spend less time or maybe even no time on the journey. Why is it that when you're planning or watching or playing video games, you always want to find out what the solution is? You don't want to enjoy the journey. I mean, when you're sitting there playing Zelda or whatever, can't you enjoy the journey? Why do you always have to go for this and get that and get that? Some of the visuals are amazing. Have you ever gone into some of these games and just wandered about and enjoyed the visuals? I remember when I first, even way back when, I got a GameCube game for my kids, and I played video games when I was a kid, and then I got a GameCube game for my kids, and it was like Star Fox Adventures or something like that, and it was just beautifully. I think the company who did it was Rare. I think they're owned by Microsoft now. But sure, there were goals to reach, but actually wandering around this amazing world that they had created was enjoyment in itself. It's the same for a lot of other video games where just wandering around the world, the journey is almost more important than the actual goal that you're trying to reach. And if you think about it, maybe that should be what we're thinking about in real life as well. We're all so goal focused. How often have you stopped and thought about the journey to the goal? That maybe the journey to the goal is actually more interesting, and you can learn more from the journey than you can getting to the destination. So don't just go straight. Like if you have a goal, don't just go straight for the goal. Remember, have you ever seen that goal where they say, oh, this is how I went from 0 to 1, 0 to be super successful, right? And it's never a straight line. It is never a straight line. Life is full of squiggly lines. It's a journey, and we should learn to enjoy it at the same time as we're striving for that goal. That's it for me for today. See you next time, and until then, don't forget to think future.